Hello and welcome to this lecture on Sundara Ramaswamy's Reflowering. I have titled this session Reading the Plot for Themes in this particular story. So the objective of this session is to work out how we understand some of the major concerns of the story through a close reading of the plot elements. Now let's work out what are the significances in the relationship between the various events in the story. So we need to find out what exactly is the significance or the implication or the importance of the connection between the events, and I would also like to find out about the rationale behind the thoughts, behaviors and actions of the characters and how they impact on the plot. In other words, how do characters push the plot forward, or how do the characters complicate or initiate the plot and bring it to resolution. So a close reading of these aspects of plotting will tell us something deeper about the philosophy behind this entire story. Now, in the previous session, we had a look at some of the kinds of conflicts, and we realized that financial conflicts have an impact on the emotions, the sentiments that are expressed among the characters in the story. So there is a relationship between financial and emotional conflicts, and consequently there is also an impact or an effect on the moral compass in the minds of the characters. So moral responsibilities, decisions that impinge on one's morality are connected to all these aspects which have their source in financial problems or financial issues for a particular character in the story. And we know who that person is since we have looked at the story, since we have read the story, and that character or protagonist or antagonist is Rowther. So I want to take a closer look at the first crisis in this story and see who are all the figures who are really responsible in moving the plot forward, in initiating the plot. How does the story begin? So it begins with a crisis, as I mentioned earlier, and that crisis has two characters connecting to it, and one is obviously Rowther and the other is the shop owner. So Rowther's behavior provokes the anger of the shop owner, and certain things happen because of that provocation, and the plot begins. The story begins to unravel. Now, this is precisely the reason behind the first crisis. So this event or incident is the one that annoys the shopkeeper, the shop owner, who is the boss of Rowther, and this anger provoked by a particular behavior, particular kind of behavior, is something that needs close attention, because we can see that there are various connections that, to this incident, and those connections and the sources need to be thoroughly examined to understand the underpinnings that are there in the character motivations and the character actions in the story. So let me read this extract from the story. Look here, Rowther, what are you going to do if you let your debts keep mounting like this? Appa had asked. Appa's question had been provoked because Rowther had chosen clothes for his entire family and piled them up by his side before thinking of asking Appa for credit. It was quite clear that Appa did not like this. We need to remember that we have a child narrator, a boy narrator, the son of this figure, Appa, the son of the shop owner, is the one who is narrating this incident for the benefit of the readers. And this is a very significant moment in the story, and it gives us a window into the thought process of not only Rowther but also the figure of the owner. So, what is the immediate source of the conflict in the first crisis? The immediate conflict is, of course, the fact that Rowther had chosen clothes for his entire family on credit, and he asks one of the shop assistants, Colopin, to pack the clothes up and give him the bill. And the boy narrator points out that Rowther does not think of asking Appa for permission to take these clothes on credit, and this is displeasing, this is annoying the father figure slash owner of the shop, the clothes shop. So, the immediate source of conflict is the purchase that is happening, and more importantly the purchase that's happening on credit and without due permission from the shop owner. So, we can see that the ego of the owner is getting hurt, and Rowther is unaware, or he is probably conscious of it but still decides to ignore that hurt that he is causing the ego of his boss. So, let us go back to the source of the crisis. So, Rowther is purchasing clothes for his family. So, the family is also implicated in the crisis that is developing in the shop. So, let us look at the family in question briefly. So, and if you go back to that extract, the boy narrator says that Rowther had chosen clothes for the entire family, and there seems to be a subtle hint of criticism in that particular phrase, even though that is not spelled out clearly. And again, the phrase, if you notice, pile them up like a mountain, and there is a reference, again a metaphorical reference to the idea of clothes being piled up like a mountain, and that is being compared to the debts that's mounting up like a mountain or a hill. So, there are a lot of play, metaphorical play of ideas and images here, and they all go back to the financial debts that Rowther has kind of piled up in his family. So, this is a very interesting extract in that regard. So, there is as I said, there is a slight element of criticism here on the part of the narrator, and as I mentioned, the metaphors of piling up of clothes as if a mountain is beside Rowther, a financial mountain of debts and mortgages is hinted there too. And another thing that is hinted at here is that just as the pile of clothes indicates, the family too is a big one, and the entire family is dependent on the finances of Rowther, an aged blind man who works as a accountant in a particular clothes shop. And Rowther himself states that my house is full of women, and he says that all his sons are useless. So, we again get a sense of the imbalance within the family of Rowther. The sons who are supposed to be very, very productive, who are supposed to bring in money, who are supposed to support the household, are not doing their job. Hence, Rowther is forced to take upon himself the responsibility of taking care of his large family. So, there are several things that are coming up into our attention when we do a close reading of that particular extract. And he spells out the precise number of members in his family for the benefit of his audience in the clothes shop and for the readers. He says, I have 4 sons, 4 daughters-in-law, 8 granddaughters, 8 grandsons. How many is that? If I gave them just 1 item of clothing apiece each, even then the cost is high. So it is a large household, and the entire household is shouldered by this old man Rowther. And he says that even if I want to give them one piece of clothing per member, even then the expense would be very high. It will be difficult for him to meet it out. So we do get a sense that there is a reason, a rationale for the financial problems that Rowther has mounted up. And I want to point out the irony that's there in this speech of Rowther. It's very interesting when he asks this question, how many is that? It's a very, very simple math for a maths wizard like Rowther, but he doesn't give us the total, the sum of the members in the family. He just asked that question, perhaps rhetorically, how many is that? And that's a very facetious question, especially coming from the mouth of Rowther. And again, he doesn't give the exact cost of the clothes that he has purchased on credit from this particular clothes shop. So he just makes a general comment about the high expense that is being realized because of this purchase. So it's very interesting and significant to see that Rowther is not giving a definite number either with regard to the family members or with regard to the amount he has borrowed from the clothes shop owner, and that's perhaps deliberate, and that perhaps gives an indication of the crafty nature of Rowther. That's something which is not highlighted by the author. It's what we do get a sense when we interpret the story. We have somehow established that this is a dysfunctional family when an old man is running the entire household full of too many members, and we realize that the sons are not contributing to the running of the household. So in such a context, we can see that the finances can run awry when there's only one member contributing to the family. On the other side, we also need to ask if Rowther is not being very smart in running the household, in keeping an eye on the finances of the household. Is he being over generous? That's the question that resists being asked. That question does come up because we see there's a slight hint that he has bought clothes for the entire family. Is that necessary? That's a big question, and we do not know what exactly is the occasion for that purchase. Is he purchasing those many number of clothes for the entire family because it's a specific family occasion, or is he just doing it annually? We don't know. So we do get a sense that perhaps he is not being very smart with his money. And the other incident that keeps cropping up when we think about this incident is the one that Kolopin refers to when he sees Rowther working in the Chettiar shop, and he says that he may be a genius at calculating, but he is an idiot. So there is a contrast that is being brought about in terms of this Rowther character, which is this: he is smart when it comes to mathematics, but he is perhaps not so smart when it comes to general affairs of life, the household affairs of life. So and we also need to remember that he has allowed debts to mount up so much that his house is also getting auctioned. So all these events suggest that he is probably not a very, very practically minded head of the family. Now, I want to go back to the continuation of that extract because that also gives us the crisis in full, the first crisis in full in the story. So, as I mentioned, he asks Kolopin to wrap up the clothes and give him the bill. How dare he take things before permission had been granted? Appa's face reddened. It's not possible for me to give you credit this time, he said. And immediately Rowther asks, so you're saying you don't want our relationship to continue? No, Aya? All right, girl, take me home. So it's pretty clear. the shopkeeper refuses to give clothes on credit this time, and Rowther immediately is riled up. He says that, do you mean to say that you want our relation to end? Okay, fine, I'm going to go home. And he asks this girl Gomati, who is a person in the store who does all the errands, and who does all the cleaning of the shop. So this is the state of affairs when he is displeased. And I want to go back to this particular response when he says that I'm going to go home because you're refusing credit to me, and that suggests that he has a lot of authority, an authority that he derives from his massive ego, and that ego has its source in his genius mathematics skills. So there is a nice connection there, which we can easily spot. Because he is aware of his value, he can play the diva, so to speak. He can say, okay, I'm going to go home because you have refused my request, which in fact wasn't a request at all, because he doesn't ask the owner in so many words. And I want also to go back to the boy's interpretation of the scene here. He says that how dare he take the things before permission had been granted to him. And again, we can see that there is a free indirect discourse happening here in a narration. We do not know whether this thought is the thought of Upper or the thought of the boy narrator. That ambiguity is clearly there. So is he interpreting the father's thoughts for us, or is he commenting on the fact that Rowther is brazen enough to take things on credit without even asking for it? So that confusion tells us that this is free indirect discourse for us here in this particular first person narration. So that briefly happens here. And Upper's face reddened. He becomes red in anger. And it's interesting to realize that Rowther, who is blind, cannot see this displeasure, a very visible mark of displeasure. So, and the other thing that's very interesting is that he says, I'm not going to give you credit this time, which again tells us that Rowther has got clothes for his family on credit on several times before. That's very, very likely. So again, this connects to the perhaps over generosity of Rowther, and that could be one of the reasons for the financial downfall of this particular character. Now, I have covered this point about this time and several times in relation to credit, and again the displeasure of the father there is not noticed because it's a physical clue, something which Rowther, who is blind, is unable to notice. So all these factors are contributing to that particular crisis. It's a combination of emotional factors and physical factors here. If he had been able to see the things around him, the people around him, he would have gotten certain clues about the people's reactions to his behavior, and that doesn't happen in this case. And immediate anger, the immediate anger is also very interesting on the part of Rowther, because he knows that he can afford to get angry, because when push comes to shove, the shopkeeper has to come back to him, because he cannot run the shop without the assistance of Rowther very, very efficiently. Two people are easy to get riled up, and they are Upper and Rowther, and we can see a nice parallel between these two male characters. They seem to be somehow mirrors of one another with very big egos, and they want to kind of retain their authority and dignity in the shop, and maintain a facade before the other characters, other assistants in the shop. Now, I want to look at how the boy narrator analyzes the situation later on, and he says that on impulse he had spoken harshly to Rowther, he being his father. He could have been more calm. that's the assessment of the boy again. Now, if a person is merely short tempered, one can talk of calmness, but if he is anger personified, then what would happen? So that's the implied question there. And we can see here that the boy clearly points the finger of blame here at his own father, because his father is not in a position to show anger to Rowther. And again, he says that if somebody is short tempered, then one can talk about calmness, which one can exhibit occasionally, but if he is angry all the time, then there's nothing that can be done. If he is a personification, embodiment of anger, then nothing can be done. This is, he could have been more calm, is a more strategic position to take on the part of the father, which he doesn't adopt, and that the boy notices and thinks about it later on. So, we can also get a sense that the father is a person who behaves impulsively from this assessment of the boy, and the reaction of the father when he refuses credit to Rowther is not a measured reaction according to the boy. And even the small boy realizes that offending Rowther is costly for their family's business in the clothes shop. So, we can see clearly who is the most powerful person in the first crisis. The most powerful person is Rowther, because he leaves the shop without even saying goodbye or without even taking his leave from the owner of the shop. He leaves in a huff, and both of them perhaps know, both Rowther and the shop owner, perhaps they know that they will have to mend matters eventually, and that's what happens. So, again, the question that don't you want a relation to continue, the question that is asked by Rowther is interesting, because he is clearly blackmailing. There is an emotional blackmail tagged onto that particular question, and there is also a sarcasm there. Are you serious? Are you saying that you don't want me to be here because that's going to cost you? That seems to be the implied question there. And since there is no response to that statement on the part of the father, we can also assume that it is a sarcastic and a rhetorical question, one that doesn't need any answer, because at that moment when he asked that question, the shop owner is perhaps so angry that he probably thinks that it's better to snap ties with Rowther. But as the story progresses, we know that that's not what happens, and then the father sends his boy to bring back this old man, and the mother, the wife of the shopkeeper knows that this is a habitual ritual between these two. So, we can see that that there is a nice and complex ego clash going on between these two male figures. And such a behavior, such a clash between the two male figures sets the plot rolling in Reflowering. And this clash that happens between the two sets the tone of the book, because that again kind of comes up later on, and when Appa tries to kind of cut him down to size by bringing in another factor which will probably dethrone Rowther. So, even though there is an ego clash and a battle of wits, or a battle of sorts happening between these two men, there is also a certain kind of warmth, some kind of bond between the shop owner and the employee, and that is evident in the middle section of the story when Rowther is in deep trouble, and Appa, the shopkeeper, comes to the rescue of Rowther. He acts in such a way that Rowther is saved from becoming homeless. So, how exactly he does the rescue? We know that he pays for the debt that's there on the house, and he prevents the auction from happening, the auction of the house from happening. And this is the set of conversation that happens before, that happens just after the event with the house auction. And once the father has paid the loan on the house, and the very next day he expects Rowther to come back to work, and he doesn't. So this is why he hasn't done so. I have to pay the court the loan and the interest on it, more than 5,000 rupees. Where will I go for the money? And this is the question that Rowther asks the shop owner, and immediately Appa took Rowther in the buggy to see a lawyer. There's hardly any conversation here between this request and this reaction of Appa. So the narrative really shows the fast paced reaction of the owner of the house, who is really moved by the state of Rowther, who has his entire women, who has his family of women just outside his shop in a cart, wailing and crying, and realizing the dire situation, he reacts fast. And it's very interesting to see that the Rowther figure doesn't show enough gratitude on the surface. He does not show up for work the next day. The shop assistant Kolappan said he had with his own eyes seen Rowther reciting the bills in the Chettiar's cloth shop. So father has rescued him financially. He pays quite a lot of money to rescue him, but then instead of showing a lot of gratitude in words and action, we see him reciting the bills in the Chettiar shop. So that's the account that Kolappan, the shop assistant, gives the owner there. So it's a really interesting structure in this particular story. There are lots of ups and downs. If you see the first crisis, we see in the first crisis we see that probably the shop owner shouldn't have been so harsh on this particular blind character, and then in the second crisis we see him really be very nice towards him, help him out financially, and then we see how Rowther turning his back on him and going to work in a rival shop. So there are lots of ups and downs if you plot the movement of the characters' journey in this story. And the fact that he has gone to the Chettiar shop is very anticlimactic again, because and there's also an element of humor there too, in that action of seeing him work in the Chettiar shop instead of coming back to the usual shop whose owner had been so generous to him. And there is also a pathos in the in that particular reaction of Rowther, because even though that particular debt has been paid off, there are several other debts of his which might again bring him to his knees. And since he is been promised by the Chettiar that he would take care of all his debts, he goes back to that particular shop. So this is a man, Rowther is a man who's like trapped in a corner, and he no matter what he does, he would be seen as someone who doesn't do his job properly. So I want to go back again to the connection to the family there, just as we saw the connection to the family in the first crisis. So the entire family comes to the clothes shop, and that's when the second crisis happens. This is the extract in question. One day a cart drawn by a single bullock, heavily curtained on both sides, stopped in the front of the shop. From inside came the wailing of women and children. Sounds like the women from my household, Rowther said. And this is the moment when we realize that the finances of Rowther are in a very dire situation. So we have a cart here that has been curtained, heavily curtained on both sides, because it contains the women of his household, and all of them are there in the cart, and all of them are crying. And they have come to the clothes shop because they have nowhere else to go, because that's where the head of the household is there, and they have come because the house is also getting auctioned. And the gunny sack, the curtains in the bullock cart reminds us of the other curtain there in the house that the boy visits for the first time to bring back Rowther. So again, there is an evocation to the house there through the curtains on the bullock cart. And Rowther immediately recognizes his women from their cries. My question here is this one: where are the men of the household? The head of the household is there in the clothes shop, but what about the sons? Where are they? They have packed the women in the cart and sent them off to this particular clothes shop. Is that so where exactly is all these male figures in his family? They are missing. And the other interesting parallel is this: the cart becomes the home for these women. So it becomes a mobile home, and the curtain is the one, the privacy that the curtains give makes that space a home for these women. And as soon as Rowther notices that his women are there, he starts crying like a child and called on God to help him out. Even as he wept, Kolopin came with a bill saying 45 meters and 70 centimeters at 13 rupees and 45 pies. Rowther stopped his caning for a moment and said to him, "Write this down, 614 rupees and 66 pies." He turned to my father, who was at the cash counter, and sobbed. So there is a lot of pathos and humor in this particular situation when the women arrive at the doorstep to the clothes shop. So when Rowther starts to cry like a child on listening to his women, Kolopin intervenes with a bill. And please notice that Rowther stopped his caning for a moment, his crying for a moment, and said to him, he doesn't say the words, the exact amount, he just says, "Write this down." So he's very careful there, "Write this down." And then once he has given him the number, he starts to cry again, and he turned to his father, who was at the cash counter, and sobbed. So the passion for mathematics, the passion for calculation, the instinctive attitude of calculating the numbers as soon as he is given some of them is evident there. He even forgets the crisis which brings the women of the household to the doorstep of the cloth shop, and he does the math for Kolopin. That's very humorous as well as sad. And as I said, he's very careful with the numbers. He says, "Write it down." He doesn't simply say the numbers for the benefit of Kolopin, because he's worried that perhaps Kolopin would get it wrong and give the wrong money, or get the wrong money from the customer. So the other thing that's very interesting is that Kolopin carries on with his job. He can see that the women of Rowther are there outside the clothes shop, and they're crying. The house is being auctioned, and the old man is in tatters there. But despite that, he comes to the old man with a bill and says, "Can you do the sums? Can you do the math for this?" So lots of things are happening here, and each of which tells us the motivations of different characters there. So the helplessness of Rowther is again made evident there. And the narrator says, the boy who narrates these incidents says that he cries like a child. The old man crying like a child is very, very interesting. That shows him to be very, very vulnerable in that particular moment. He could be a lord when it comes to mathematics, but when it comes to the financial state of affairs, he is like a child. And again, the fact that his spendthrift nature, his overgenerosity has brought him to such a situation is also kind of is the subtext for this crisis. And the fact that he is not very smart in dealing with his household affairs is also implied. So he could be very egoistic in terms of his self-awareness of his skills, and but he is not the lord of all the things in his life. So this section tells us that paying very close attention to the various elements of the plot, especially the moments of crisis in the story, brings out a lot of interesting information, important information and symbolic information about the central characters, and this has something to tell us. Such a process of understanding the story has something interesting to tell us about the various themes in the short story. Usually when readers read the story, they see Rowther as a completely one-dimensional figure who is a wizard and with mathematics, but who is financially in trouble. But a close reading will tell us that what are the possible reasons for his financial instability, who are all the factors who are contributing to it, and his own personality could be one of the reasons for the state of affairs of his family. So all these interesting information, significant information about the central characters and his universe becomes evident through a good analysis of the central events in the story. Thank you for listening. I'll catch up with you in the next session.